Today we're taking Everton FC on a journey to the top. This season hasn't been kind, but we're here to turn it all around. After sacking Sean Dyche and bringing in David Moyes, it's time to give them the ultimate rebuild. We're going to be wiping out all of their debt and bringing in a wealthy front-end benefactor. Big names are coming in, and so will be the trophies. Premier League title? That's going to be coming home. European glory? You bet that as well. This isn't just a rebuild, this is a revolution, and the video will not be stopping until we win Everton the Champions League. Let's begin. This is going to be Everton inside of the game. We all know who they are. They're a very big team, obviously over in England, with a rich history. Now, in terms of their youth facilities and training, they're actually very high up in the rankings with both 4.5-star sort of stars going for them. The youth recruitment is also going to be reasonably good with 3.5, and the reputation is quite good, but today we're going to aim to try and at least turn that into a 4.5-star club. Now, the owner status will actually listen to offers, so the owners could be out the door. If we do get new owners, I will obviously make sure they are going to be given that front end benefactor as well, because of course as a sugar daddy rebuild we are going to clear all of their debts and make them a club with quite a fair bit of money to try and get them all the way back up to the top, which probably would happen if new owners come in anyway. So to do that, we have had to use the editor. We're going to go into the club details, go into the finances, and as you will see, there is no longer any debts and loans. We've also gone over and added that rich benefactor on the front end. So they're the only two things we're doing, and essentially that means that of course all the debts are gone and we are going to have a bit more money than maybe usually you would see, but nothing too crazy. Now, in terms of the first season, we are not going to be using a David Moyes tactic because, to be honest, we don't know how he's going to play just yet. He's not really played enough for me to put 100% system down into the game, so we are going to use a 4-2-3-1 because it is probably the most common sort of theme you'll see in play for security. Now, we have got some good players in this system, don't get me wrong. We have got players here which will easily keep us above the Premier League drop, I hope, because the likes of Jack Harrison and Lindstrom, two players that are loanee players, are magnificent players in this team. Lindstrom, of course, we used in the Match of the Delay series when that was going on, and he was one of the best players in the whole tournament, a great player, and a player that hopefully we can afford to bring in because he will be part of this team for quite a fair few years. Now, Calvert-Lewin is a player that is either hot or cold. He either performs really well or he actually has a real bad time, so we're going to keep an eye on him because if we can get money for him, I'm not against selling him, but if he is scoring goals for the sake of, you know, just the video and keeping it all about Everton, I will keep Calvert-Lewin up front. Of course, McNeil, a fantastic player, suits Everton down to a T. In my opinion, they're one of the best teams when it comes to having two good wing-backs for a smaller side. Patterson and Mikalenko are absolutely incredible. Branthwaite, obviously a top centre-back. Tarkowski, a bit on the way out. And honestly, I quite like Pickford. He is 30 years of age, so we're going to be bringing another goalkeeper eventually. But for now, he will do a job. Garner and Decore, not bad players either. Unfortunately, we have got some players on here who we will, you know, simply move on. Guy, Coleman, Ashley Young, for example. I will say in terms of the strikers, we have got almost too much selection. We've got Calvert-Lewin, Broja, Beto, and obviously Shamiti as well. Now, we are only going to keep two of them, so we are going to sort of factor that in because I don't need 4 strikers really, and I think we can cash in them sort of positions and add where we need to. For example, the wing-back situation, we don't have good backups really for either side, so we are going to have to improve that. You could also argue the same for centre-backs, and maybe you could also argue we do need some better midfield players coming in. Now, in terms of the actual sort of idea for this, it is obviously we're going to win the Champions League. The video will not end until we hit that, so whatever we do, obviously we do want to win the Prem as well. The first season, it's impossible for us to win the Champions League, although we probably wouldn't anyway. We are only playing in 3 competitions, and that is going to include the Premier League, where they think we are going to finish in 11th place, which to be honest is actually quite fair because this team is good. I do rate this team quite a fair bit, and I know a 4-2-3-1 is absolutely perfect for this, but I do think we have a lot of work to do. So I will say we're going to load into the first season, see how we do. If you do enjoy the rebuilds, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and at any point in this video, if you think, Josh, I want to get the tactic, I want to get your rebuild files, you can find it in the description below over on that Patreon, but also you get all of these incredible perks. There's over 5,000 people, daily exclusive content, and we've got 20% off this month. So make sure you go over and get involved. Let's load up season 1 and just aim to finish inside, well, the top 12 would be nice. To be honest, it's a bit of a shocking situation, to be fair, because we find ourselves in a cup final in our first season against Man City, which we are going to go 1-0 up in, by the way, just after the half-time whistle goes. They then bounce back from a set piece from De Bruyne, and this game goes all the way through to penalties. Now, I will say this is anyone's games. Penalties is purely a 50-50 in my opinion, and we can beat them. And when Haaland is doing penalties like that, we definitely can beat them. Now, we are close to going 2 for 2 until Beto steps up, which, you know, you might expect from a player like him, although he's not a bad striker. When you've got Haaland missing, you can't be too harsh on Beto, but we are so far still in the lead. Obviously, as you can see, Rico Lewis, a good penalty from him, but at the end of the day, as I say, miracles can happen in penalty shootouts. It is a very, very well-known fact, and when you've got Pickford in goal, he can save a fair few penalties, and that's exactly what he did. And I will say, despite it going on for absolute ages and ages and ages, and there seems to be endless penalties, we are going to come out and actually win this competition. So Doucouré is going to step up, slot it into the top left-hand corner. Rodrigo steps up. At this point, it was practically irrelevant what he ever done because they'd already missed so many more penalties compared to us. As Coleman steps, Ruben Diaz is going to step into the bottom right-hand corner as well. They're decent penalties, don't get me wrong, but Braithwaite just lashing it past Ortega. They are nowhere near on the same level, and it is a little bit surprising because obviously how good Man City can be at penalties, but at the end of the day, we win eventually 8-7. Same can't be said in the Carabao Cup. We are going to fall in at the 4th round, which, to be honest with you, we lose to Man City on penalties, and if it was as long as the other one, we end watching them highlights as well, because there was, you know, 15 penalties in the one we won, so it's okay to lose one. And I tell you what, I've seen the Premier League, and we are looking incredible. We are only 6 points off winning the actual league. Calvert-Lewin is clearly our best goal scorer. You could also see some other players contributing in terms of the assists. That is going to be Lindstrom, the player that I was really sort of keen to bring in on the permanent. Now, we're talking about a team now that has won already an English trophy. We're in the top 4. How many seasons is it realistically going to take us to win the Prem and the Champions League? Because we've got a great tactic. You can see that right here. We are going to look at the stats in this screen because you can get a bit of a better understanding in terms of who's playing where. And Calvert-Lewin with 41 goals across all competitions. We have got to remember when you look at it on this screen, that is across all competitions, not just the Premier League. 13 and 13 for McNeil, Lindstrom 10 and 12, 9 and 13 for Harrison. The wing-backs are doing okay, not incredible in terms of the assistant numbers, but realistically in this system, they're not even expected to do that too much because I don't want to go too over the top at the moment, and when you've got attacking players that are doing so well, you don't also really need to commit the wing-backs. Now, in terms of players that, you know, Coleman even done quite well here with 3 and 7, Doucouré 1 and 5, Beto, unfortunately, he only played 6 games. In those 6 chances, he scored 1 goal, dropped a decent average rating, but I think at the moment, you compare him to someone like Brozier, we're in a bit of a difficult situation now because he plays 28 games, there's quite a fair few games, only 4 goals, 1 assist, and as for me, that's not good enough for me to go out and spend anywhere near £30 million on. So Beto will probably stay despite being the worst performer because I've already got him. I don't need to spend money on him again, and he can be a good backup for Calvert-Lewin hopefully in the upcoming seasons. Now, in terms of the actual money situation, we've got 78 million, so we can go over and sign the likes of Lindstrom, and hopefully he will only cost me maximum 20 million. They want about 15 to 23. From my experience in the past, you can roughly get him for about 22. So I'm going to try and aim for lower, but I will pay up to 22 because I really do rate him, and he was a big part of our success this season. So what we're going to do is we are now going to go over after a very good season with a very big budget and try and strengthen. It's going to take a lot of seasons to slowly improve the overall sort of spine of the team, but let's see what we can do. Season 2. The first player we're going to bring in is going to be Simon Andegra, coming in from Brighton. He comes in for a total of 43 million. He actually has a great first season, 8 goals, 7 assists, drops a decent average rating as well, and this player was brought in for a variety of reasons, but the main attraction, of course, is just how quick he is, his dribbling, the fact he can also put a ball in the box, and in terms of finishing and composure, he's also got that. Now, he will probably be one of our starting wingers easily for the next 3-4 years, to be honest, so despite a pretty hefty price tag, it's a very good player. And we really are going to focus on the wings and the quality of the wings. And this doesn't mean that the likes of McNeil is just going to be pushed out the team, because someone like Diallo isn't even guaranteed first team football based off that current ability. He's a great player in real life, a great player in the game. And I will say, when he comes in for 48 million, I did lock him in for this season to give him a chance to then the next season, where he's not going to be locked in, he can compete with a Dwight McNeil, someone like that, which sounds like a crazy sentence, but we're not locking him in for the entire rebuild. So he will be battling against Dwight McNeil, and usually the game does base it off of current ability. If you do feel like I should lock in players more often, please do let me know in the comments. But for that price tag and a player for the future, one of the best Premier League players in real life at the moment, I think it's a fair deal. I'm going to secure quite a good deal for Jesper Lindstrom. He comes in for 14 million and has an okay season. Not as good as last year, it has to be said, but he's only 14 million pounds. Definitely worth the money we spent on him. And whether this guy will be in the team for as long as what I predicted, well, that's up for debate. But I mean, at the moment, he's doing a very, very good job. And just looking at this window, we have brought in 3 very, very big players. We didn't hold back. Now, I'm not going to show the highlights of this one because it was more penalties than the previous one, but I will say we had a very dramatic game against Man City. It's only the Community Shield, but we're going to take it. That's trophy 1. First display in the Champions League was pretty much just okay. I mean, it's a quarter-final exit. In terms of the actual league phase, we actually topped the charts, only losing 1 game against Napoli, beating teams like AC Milan, Leipzig, Copenhagen, Marseille, Madrid, Valencia. But of course, the quarter-finals, that's all she wrote. Premier League technically is a bit of a drop-off, but I will say we are now playing in a lot more competition, so it is to be expected. We're only still 10 points off actually winning the entire thing. Calvert-Lewin still topping the top goal scoring chart, so there's no reason to really bring in another striker. I will also say, apart from him, sadly, we've got no other players in the sort of stat line, so that tells me that we might not have overall the best quality to go out and win a Premier League, but Calvert-Lewin is doing it by himself. He is an absolutely incredible striker, but sometimes the injuries come in and that's where it starts to get a bit annoying. But fingers crossed, he is staying okay for now. Apart from that, it's an almost season. Runners-up in the FA Cup, we're going to lose 1-0 to Leeds, of all teams, and also the Carabao Cup, we lose to Newcastle. Now, in my opinion, Newcastle more than Leeds, these are 2 games that we could be winning, and that would have actually made it a treble-winning season of all the English Cups. So a little bit disappointing, but at the end of the day, the main aim today is to win the Premier League and the Champions League. I'm happy with the progress though. We're only a couple of seasons in. We've improved the team. We're consistent in the Premier League. I would say just after 2 seasons, I'm going to label myself as a top 4 consistent team because that's all we can really go off. Now, in terms of the money, we have got a decent budget. We've got £58 million to spend. And in terms of the players that we are looking to improve, you can see Diallo was locked in, just to showcase that. He finished with 11 and 11. So it's an okay season, but not enough to lock him in, filtered by the best 11, so he hasn't done quite enough to guarantee first team football. But I will say Calvert-Lewin had a great season with 53 goals, McNeil 10 and 13, 12 and 6 from Lindstrom, obviously the star boy on the right 14 and 25. This will be a reason why Diallo doesn't get a guaranteed slot in the team unless he can boot McNeil out of the position. Garner also has a great season with 8 and 13, 6 and 12 for Guy in midfield, a player that I probably disrespected a fair bit, but he is 36, so I don't want to get attached to him too much because he is going to be leaving pretty shortly. 11-11 from Diallo, as we discussed. And Dye, again, another player, 26 years of age. He comes in and contributes 12 and 8. It's an okay performance from the bench, but I will say a lot of the money we are going to bring in is to improve the bench. And also we can improve the bench by, for example, improving a first team player. So we're not going to sign him, but say, for example, I signed Gavi. That would then obviously put Garner on the bench, meaning that we do improve the bench that way as well. So there's loads of ways you can improve a club, and that's what we're going to focus on. So let's get into season 3 with a fairly big budget and see what we can do. Didn't sign Gavi, but we might have done what I said because we are going to pick up Carlos Baleba now, and this guy's on the market and they're happy to take also a little bit of an instalment payment. We did pay a total of 71 million, but this guy just oozes consistency. 7.16 when it comes to the average rating, a good amount of goals, a good amount of assists, and he is just very well rounded. He's still young, experienced in the Premier League, and just suits the team really, really well. He can play any role I'd want him to. it's a dream signing. We also are going to make a bit of a decision to bring in another centre-back. It's not a mad signing in terms of name, but a very good player for 25 million. He's not good enough to cement a first-team spot all the time, but for a player of that value who does quite a consistent performance, he'll do. And lastly on the free, and it wasn't really planned to bring in another winger, but part of this signing was to do a little bit of a business move because he's a player worth 55 million and we paid a total of £0 for him. He's actually done incredibly well. 13 goals, 14 assists. He's probably one of our better wide players in the team. Now, it wasn't brought in purely for that reason. It was a business move, but it would be quite stupid for me to cash in on him right away when he is probably been one of the better Premier League wingers, let alone just for Everton, probably one of the best wingers in the Prem. We're going to find ourselves in another cup final. This one is going to be in the FA Cup final, and it started off very, very scrappy. That's the goal that we concede inside of 3 minutes, which is not ideal, but we can't really complain because we then go and score a set piece around about 31 minutes after, and that one again was a failed clearance, and it is going to be Booth, and I believe it was actually a little touch off someone there, which I can't quite pluck out. After that goal went in, we are now going to go all the way from the 30th odd minute to the 80th minute, which we are going to find a goal. The goalkeeper's gone walkies. Calvert-Lewin is going to make it 2-1. And from this point on, after that goal goes in, I think Fulham lost their heads a little bit because Coleman is going to find the wide man back into Coleman. It's nice to see him start a final in probably his last season. A ball into the box, into Calvert-Lewin, and that is going to be 3-1 in the 82nd minute. And there is still time for one more goal, literally about 2 minutes, 20 seconds after. Mikalenko down the left-hand side, into Dwight McNeil, into the middle, and it's going to be Jesper Lindstrom. Champions League is going to be the same path, and we go out to an 8-4 loss against Barcelona. We need a few more seasons in that one. World Cup, a very disappointing early exit on penalties. It is against Newcastle. They are a good team, but I'm going to be honest, I think we should be beating them. I say that because we have won the Premier League already, so that is one thing ticked off for the video, and Newcastle actually finish. Where do they finish? They finish in 14th place, so that's why I said that we should be beating them. There's no disrespect to them, but in the game, they're not having a great time. Now, one thing that I have noticed is, despite Calvert-Lewin not being top goal scorer anymore, we have got a lot more players in the average rating. We've got players in the player of the matches. Pickford is going to be in the clean sheets, and Taylor Booth is going to be the top assister. So Calvert-Lewin isn't going to be rank 1 in the goal scoring anymore, but we have got a lot more of a team approach. A lot more players are going to be in, a lot more players are going to be top Premier League players, and that's what you need, and that completes quite a good season. One of the big trophies ticked off, another FA Cup, the Carabao Cup a bit of a disappointment, and the Champions League, we just haven't progressed enough, to be honest, but we have got to be humble with it. We have won a Premier League, we're not that far in, and realistically, I imagine any Everton fan right now would take this any single day. Now, in terms of the money, they have given us quite a fair bit. Obviously, it would be a little bit more money because we have now won a Premier League title under this management. But realistically, this team is obviously capable of winning the Premier League. Now, when this happens, I don't like to go and change the complete 11 because obviously they're capable of getting the job done. What this team isn't capable of is winning a 4-trophy season or even winning the Champions League and the Premier League. Now, that's not a bad thing because a lot of teams aren't, but what it does mean is that we do need to go out and improve either the bench again or improve some of the first team players. Now, if you look at the team like I'm doing now, you can quite easily pick out the players that might need replacing eventually, and that does unfortunately include Jesper Lindstrom, who did have a decent season with 13 and 12. It does include Tarkowski, who's getting older. It does include potentially even Pickford, as he is getting older as well. An argument could also be made for the wing-backs, and some would also even argue Garner, but I quite like him in midfield. He picked up 11 assists, but again, it is going to be the star man Calvert-Lewin with 49 goals and 6 assists. Now, when a striker is doing that, it is quite hard to replace him. In terms of the backup striker, he's only scoring 3, so the argument could be had. Get rid of Beto, bring in a better backup striker, maybe a younger player that can replace Calvert-Lewin. That is definitely an idea. Dwight McNeil has been pushed down to the bench with 6 and 5, and Amad Diallo, we have got to decide about his future because he was brought in for a big fee and he was given a golden chance. He played a lot of games in that season, didn't do too much, and now, you know, he's paying the price for that. So maybe we loan him out. That could be an option because I do want to try and lock him in again at some point for a guaranteed season. But whenever whenever I do a rebuild, I think it's unfair to lock in a whole sort of batch of players, unless you're doing youth only or something like that, because then essentially you're just rebuilding the 11, not the entire team. So we aren't going to be, you know, not going to be biased towards players. We're not going to give any players the golden treatment. We are doing this as a squad. So let's get into the next season. After winning quite an important trophy in the Premier League and another FA Cup with a big budget of 84 million, and let's just go and improve. So what I've decided to do is, because obviously Tarkowski's time is going to be coming up very shortly, we are going to bring in someone to replace him, and it is going to be someone with tons of Premier League experience. That was the real key factor to bring him in. It's going to be Zabrani. He comes in for 28 million, which is very cheap for him, by the way. He picks up 2 goals, drops a 6.87, and stays fit for most of the season. It was actually when we brought him in, he was a little bit injured, that makes more sense, but he recovered quite well, and as you can see, he's improving quite a fair bit. I'm going to pick up one of my favourite players in the game, and I genuinely mean that. It is going to be Ferdi Kadioglu. He comes in for a total of 26 million. He plays a ton of games, but he's guaranteed it because he can play left back perfect and right back perfect. That was the real reason to bring him in as well, because he gives us technically a better, well, it was backup compared to what we had, but obviously he's better than our left back and our right back, so he can play either one. He's so versatile. The only downside is maybe he's 28, but I mean, for the next few years, he's going to help out big time. So I'm going to pick up one of the better younger centre-backs in Sila. He comes in from Rennes, he's incredibly quick, good tackling, 20 leadership to clarify, 20 leadership. This guy can potentially be a future captain. He comes in for 32 million, doesn't drop the best average rating, but it's okay for his first year in the Premier League. He's never played in this league before, and just look at the attributes. You can't not sign him. And lastly, it's going to be an instalment signing, but when you can get this guy, he is going to be our Jesper Lindstrom sort of replacement. Lindstrom is still with us, but I think this guy could win us a Champions League. Xavi Simons, he is such a good player. We only spend 56 million, which is quite small compared to what you can pay for this guy, and he genuinely has quite an average season. I'm not going to lie, he has a pretty average season for a first year, because I know how good this guy can drop in terms of goals and assists, but do you know what? I'll let him grow. He's still only 25. He is our best player, and at the end of the day, we have now probably got, well, we have got so many good young players. I can imagine us getting this Champions League done in the next few seasons. Pretty much guaranteed. Well, not guaranteed, but almost. So we're going to start in the Champions League again, because we can't get past this quarter-final, and it is going to be Barcelona again that we can't beat. Now, I will say, in terms of the league phase, we're managing it quite easy. We've never really been in like 8th place. We've always been in the top 4. But when it comes to the knockouts, we can't do it. It's becoming a bit of a repetitive final now. The FA Cup, we are going to match up against probably the best team for, you know, a big game in Liverpool, the big game here. And I will say Liverpool did not hold back in terms of getting back into the game. A great goal from Szoboszlai, but we now find ourselves 60 minutes on the clock, and it's going to be us with the highlight and us with the goal. Calvert-Lewin to make it 2-1 inside of 60 minutes. They then go and bounce back literally 3 minutes after. A great goal from Kavar, a fantastic player who obviously has just gone to PSG, but this game was literally end to end. We then go and make it 3-2 with Booth, the player that was brought in on the free, expected to be a profit signing and now is one of our best players, and unfortunately for them, Kanate has cost them big time, as Jesper Lindstrom is going to make it 4-2. And despite Liverpool offering everything and even getting a little bit of a gift there from Zabrani through to Trent and Szoboszlai, we're going to take the trophy home. Same can't be said for the Community Shield. We are going to lose 3-0 to Man City. It's quite hard to be annoyed though, because we've won it already. It's only the Community Shield. The Carabao Cup is clearly not our cup, it appears to be, because we do get past the sort of first round exit that we failed in the previous season, but this time the quarter-finals and Tottenham give us quite the beating. And in terms of the Prem, Liverpool are going to be crowned champions by 2 points, so no back-to-back titles. That is quite a big ask for a team in Everton, despite the amazing players we have brought in. But what I will say is at least we're still being in that top 4 consistent battle. At the moment, we have won the Premier League, so that is the big trophy ticked off, but we need to win the Champions League as well. So the main aim for me is to obviously just make sure we're in the Champions League. That's all I want to make sure we're doing, and we're doing that quite comfortably as well at the moment. Calvert-Lewin goes back to being the Premier League top goal scorer, Pickford the second top clean sheets, Taylor Booth the second most amount of assists, and player of the matches, we are also going to be joint third in that regard. So overall, it's a mixture of emotion in terms of a season, because the FA Cup we've won it so many times. It's definitely the Everton Cup right now. The Carabao Carabao Cup we don't need, but it would be nice to win one. The Community Shield I couldn't really care about, but the Champions League, we can't really get past the quarters, so the big aim next year is to at least get to the semis. That's going to be what I'm looking for. Now, in terms of the money, we have got a total of 86 million pounds again, and looking at the homepage, we're actually very, very good. We're not really slacking in one regard. We're the second best at conceding, the second best at goals being scored, so we haven't got a clear weakness in the team. But you go over to the tactic page and I look at the names on the page, like what could be the issue, and Pickford, for example, is a player that is still happy to play for us. He's a great goalkeeper. He isn't in... Does that say retiring, actually? It didn't. I'm just making sure he is okay to play for us. I then look at the back line, and that back line is absolutely incredible. The midfield's also very, very good. The front four is also very, very good. But clearly, we still need a little bit more. So we're going to go in, really analyse what players we can bring in, and go and spend this, well, nearly 90 million. First signing we're going to do is bring in another player very similar to Ferdy Kadioglu. That is going to be Aaron Hickey. Now, this guy comes in from Brentford for a total of 19 million. Now, the decision to bring him in basically, firstly, a load of Prem experience, but also he doesn't directly replace any of our current wing-backs. He's like Ferdy. He can play and compete for any position across left-back and right-back, and he clearly did. We have now got two players in Hickey and Kadioglu, who can play left-back and right-back perfectly. We also have kept the original set of wing-backs. The wing-back situation, we're under control quite well. I have done a little bit of pre-planning for the future, and I have signed Restes. He comes in from Toulouse for 49 million. He actually pretty much he does get into the team right off the bat, so Pickford obviously fallen off a little bit. He does have a decent first season. It wasn't the main aim to really bring him in for first team right away, but obviously his ability did show. He cost me, 49 million? His value now sitting at over 100. We'll take it. Lastly, for a backup striker or maybe even first team striker, we are going to gamble a little bit and bring in Rasmus Højlund. His time at United's been a little bit iffy so far, but actually in the game, he's actually quite good. He's quick, good composure, good finishing, reminds me a bit like Calvert-Lewin in terms of the physical side, a bit of a brute of a player, but a little bit quicker as well. Now, he comes in and he actually scores 25 goals in his first season, but it does mean that Calvert-Lewin has been pushed to one side. And I will clarify for anyone wondering, we have transfer listed a ton of players. McNeil, Beto are two of the names. No teams want them at the moment, but when I am simming, I am going into this and I am making sure, as you can see, only sell the transfer list of players. So we are trying to sell them, but nobody wants them. But let's see how we can sort of improve. Adding in Rasmus, adding in Hickey, adding in Restes. Can that win us a Champions League? Not the Champions League final, but it is the Carabao Cup final, which I am going to show because we have been awful in it and we are going to find ourselves going 1-0 up. Thanks for the gift there from Guardiol. Rasmus is going to make it 1-0. And to be honest with you, this game was all Everton. 72 minutes on the clock right now. We are going to put the ball into the box, and Calvert-Lewin, nice to see him still getting some game time. He is going to make it 2-0. At this point, it's a bit of key information. City were down to 10 men. We then just take advantage of that by lumping the ball in the box. And yeah, I don't know who they've got in goal, but I'd get him out of goal because he's diabolical. And Dye is going to go down the right-hand side. Plenty of time into Simmons. First time. Who is that goalkeeper? You're also going to go back to be Premier League champions. That is now 2 titles in this time. And look who is your top goal scorer. Rasmus Højlund and Xavi Simons dominating Osimhen and obviously Erling Haaland. Xavi Simons is going to be the best Premier League player as well. Restes the most clean sheets. And what is happening now is we have got all of our team coming together. We've got a midfield player really coming into his prime, a new striker coming into his prime, a young goalkeeper dominating the clean sheets. It's obvious to why we're Premier League winners. Fortunately, again, the quarter-final seems to be the cursed thing at the moment. If we're going to go out at any stage, it is always a quarter-final. This time, the FA Cup strikes us, and it's Arsenal. Also do lift the Community Shield against Liverpool, so it's a big game, but it's the Community Shield. It means virtually nothing. And I can't believe my eyes with this one, because the Champions League, again, the quarter-final exit, I believe that might now be, 3 times on the bounce, 4 times on the bounce? We're going to lose to Arsenal 3-1. It's not a ridiculous loss, but I mean, you look at the league phase, we're in the top 3. We should be getting to at least the semis by now. And I look at the season, and yeah, it's a treble-winning season. It's very good for Everton. But I do think with the players we've got now, we have got good players. This team on paper is nuts. Højlund scoring 38 goals, Xavi Simons 33 and 11, 10 and 16 for Booth, 13 and 15 there as well. We're a very good team. Calvert-Lewin with 14, 9 and 12 for Lindstrom, 9 and 15 for McNeil still. We are putting up serious numbers, but we just can't quite sort of do it in the Champions League, it seems. Now, we are obviously going to carry on until we win the Champions League. That is why we set the challenges. But come on, the team on paper is absolutely remarkable. Have we got any money? Okay, right. I will say, if we go and spend another 102 million and we don't get past the quarterfinals, I might actually email SI. There could be a bug in the game, because the team we've got now should be getting to a Champions League final, in my opinion. The goalkeeper's incredible, the backline's class, the midfield's class, the front four is amazing. What's going on? Right, we're not messing about anymore. We are going to bring in some big players. We're spending our money very wisely, and we are going to use installments, because that's why we've got the sugar daddy owners. We are going to welcome in Lewis Miley. He comes in for 58 million, drops a 7.18. That will do for me in the first season. The reason this guy is brought in is because our midfield is the only area I can really think where we might need improvement over Ghana. He obviously gets in the team right away. Other than that, yeah, the next two signings you're going to see, they're luxury signings. That will include bringing in Bamba. Now, this guy comes in for multiple reasons. Firstly, he can play in DM and centre-back. He is on the older side, but I tell you what, look at the mental, look at the physical, ignore the price tag of 57 million, but he comes in and plays to a very, very high level. He's held his value very well as well. And I'm looking at it as a perspective of, if you play in the Premier League, the Champions League, all of these competitions, you need the best players you can possibly have. Whether that means they start every game or 10 games, you need to have an amazing squad. It's why City can do it. It's why these top teams can do it. Because you look at their bench and you're like, God, it's like a second first team. And that is what we're trying to do. It's why we also sign Ez Abdi, a player that I always turn to, and valued at 120 million. We only paid 59 million. He contributes with 15 goals and 10 assists. In the Premier League alone, he gets into the first team right off the bat. A very, very good elite winger on the left-hand side. So you now look at the team. You can see all the outgoings here, by the way. No real big names apart from Samiti, who maybe does need to be talked about, but not really that deep, to be honest, because we're way above him right now in terms of players. These three players are all world-class in their position. I want to see a Champions League improvement. Can't believe what I'm seeing. We have somehow gone backwards in progression. Now, I would say it's because we're bringing in too many players. We're only bringing in 3 players, and every player is an improvement. This is getting quite tricky now, but this is why it's why you love the rebuilds. They're meant to be challenging. If you are enjoying, by the way, please do leave a like and subscribe, because I'm scratching my head about this one. Positive is we do maintain the Premier League, but I mean just, and I mean just. A 1 point, I mean, it is so close, it is ridiculous, but we'll take it. Tottenham, fair play, a good season. Xavi Simons is still going to be the best player. Rasmus, the top goal scorer. Xavi Simons, 4th top goal scorer. Restes down in 4th now with the clean sheets. But I mean, we've got to talk about this guy. Taylor Booth was brought in to make profit, but since he's been at this club, he has dropped pretty much consistent numbers through the entire time he's been here. He has been such a big player for us, and I'm just going to get into it because the season was a disappointment. I mean, we have fallen off in pretty much every trophy you could imagine. I don't know what's caused it, maybe injuries, whatever it can be. The semi-finals against Tottenham, we're going to lose 3-1. The quarter-finals against City, we're going to lose 3-0. These aren't even close games. That's a close game, but we've fallen back quite a fair bit. And in terms of players, it's not even down to them, I don't think. I look at it and we've got Rasmus doing incredibly well, Abdi doing great, Xavi Simons doing great, Booth doing great with the assists, 10 and 14 for Baleba, Ghana with 14. Even on the bench, you've got 28 goals from Shamiti, obviously out on loan. And I'm looking at this guy right now and I'm like, do I bring him back? Although he's a leading Sky Bet League 2 player, it is getting to my head now. We're trying to actually get this done because this team on paper is genuinely such a good team. And I don't know why it can't get me past the quarterfinals. Now, it is a mystery because even the backup players, we've got Restes, we've got Sila, we've got Miley, Calvert-Lewin, Pavlovic. We've got this guy who, by the way, is still a very, very good winger. A great winger indeed. Beto is obviously on the transfer list. Braithwaite, Lindstrom, Patterson, McNeil, Mikolenko, Diallo still at the team who will not go out on loan for some reason. we have got a big challenge on our hands right now. We have got a budget of 92 million, so we can still improve the team to a degree. Now, I'm not being funny, we're not doing bad, we are winning. The reputation's almost up to 5 stars, by the way, but I will say we are winning a lot of trophies. Look at the progression. It's a constant up arrow, but this one right here is what we need. Let's go and make it happen. Now in 2030, we have gone so many years ahead. We are going to pick up a player who is on the older side, but valued at 100 to 120 million. Now I've got him on the free, and he has come in and done incredibly well. Now I've done this because if this video does carry on, I will sell him for more money and we can still bring in better players, because at this point I don't know how long it's going to take us to win the Champions League, but if there is a player in midfield that can offer something, it is going to be Ravella at this stage of the game. He looks incredible. Also going to spend very, very big by bringing in a player called Buani. Now this guy, a lot of people don't even touch him, but I tell you what, if he develops right, which he has done, a world-class winger, an elite winger, rapid, 17 dribbling, 15 composure, 13 finishing, great decisions, great technique. He is basically a better Mahrez, to be honest. He come in for 77 million. Now, in terms of stats, 13 goals, 8 assists. It's not like remarkable, because obviously he's doing that in the French league as well. But it's just about adding a lot more quality to the team overall. And this is someone that can, I'd like to think, go against the best fullbacks in the world and make them look pretty average. And we are also going to pick up a player for the first time on this channel called Verstappen. Now, I signed him mainly just for the name. I'll be honest, I'm not going to lie to you guys, but I will also say he is another player that looks remarkable. He's only 22, obviously a regen wonder kid. He's value 138 to 154. He cost me 35, and attributes, stats-wise, he is done very similar to the previous man we talked about. But again, add an overall quality to the team, and how can you not sign someone with that name? You've got to pick him up, especially me. You've got to sign him. So, do you know what? Hopefully, that has put us somewhere. Looking at it, we have signed 3 very big players. Beto finally gets to move out on the free, which is good to see. Other than that, no other real big names to talk about. A lot of these players simply wouldn't leave. Beto does get the move. Yes, it's on the free, but to be honest with you, he was doing nothing for us. So it is a bit of a loss in terms of the money, but I'm hoping we can at least reach a Champions League semi-final. I'm going to start off with the Premier League, although it doesn't really matter anymore because we've won it once. That was the aim. There is a certain someone that done quite well. That is going to be Verstappen inside of 4th place when it comes to the goals, just missing on the podium. Rasmus Højlund is going to finish in 3rd place there with 18 goals. And I will say, although it doesn't mean anything because we won the Premier League, it is nice that we're being so consistent. Man City had one of them seasons where they just took over. They have got the likes of Tuchel in charge, and they've got a team looking like this now. Madrid, a few regens coming through who I guarantee are absolutely incredible. Now, their goalkeeper I'm not worried about because he is abysmal. We've seen that in the highlights. But other than that, their team's looking pretty nice. We are going to go back to winning the Carabao, or the Community Shield, should I say, but I mean, genuinely, it doesn't really mean anything. It's a pointless trophy that we've won before. Confusion is to be justified. We did also win the Carabao Cup 3-1 over Liverpool. Again, it is quite nice, and Verstappen, again, joint top goal scorer. So this player, we signed him for the name. He's also paid out. We are now going to find ourselves in the Champions League final against Barcelona, and I will tell you now, if Verstappen grabs the winner here, it is going to be absolute scenes. To start with, it's going to be Buani, who is going to make it 1-0 inside of 4 minutes. So at the moment, we are looking likely to get this job done. Hickey then picks it up 40 minutes after. Trivela pass from Hickey into Buani, who, by the way, appears to be taking this game quite nicely, is going to make it 2-0 inside of 19 minutes. We are now talking about a 90-second gap, and Buani again, touch inside, drive inside. Sealer is going to get a deflection, and it is going to be a 3-0 advantage. And surprisingly, a lot of people might want us to bottle this. We don't bottle it. Buani down the right-hand side, a ball into the box, and it is going to be Rasmus Højlund, a 4-0 Champions League win. Completing the challenge, we don't win the FA Cup, we don't win the Prem, but we have finally won that Champions League. Let's go and look at it in the club info. A 5-star reputation team right now. The owners are literally loving life at the club, and we are talking about a Champions League. It looks incredible. We've also added several Premier Leagues, several FA Cups, a couple of Carabao Cups as well. We have done Everton to the highest level, and they are now a team that are not only minted with a budget of 95 million, you have got one of the best teams in the game. I will be honest, you have got some incredible young players, older players. Look at the squad. We can actually get a good understanding here. Look at the value of the team. You have got some seriously pricey players all to your disposal, and you got 95 million as well, and you're officially a Champions League winning team. So hopefully the Everton fans have enjoyed. If you have, even if you're not an Everton fan but you like the rebuilds, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And once again, if you do want to go over and get this tactic and also get the rebuild file, you can find it in the Patreon in the link below, where you have still got time to take advantage of the 20% off, where you can go over and sign up today. Be sure to leave a like, and once again, please do comment what you thought of the rebuild and any future rebuilds you want to see, because we've got a lot planned, but also there's a lot of time until FM25, so your team can get featured. I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day.